Hey guys, it's Becky with Design Bundles, and today I'm here to talk to you about vinyl. Now, of course, there are a lot of different types of vinyl available to you to use with your cutting machine, regardless of which cutting machine you choose. And that's a good thing because that means that, hey, I can talk to all of you and teach you what you need, whether you're beginning with a Silhouette, a Cricut, a Scan and Cut, or even most commercial machines, okay? So let's go ahead and get started, and we will talk all about vinyl. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with some terminology. We are going to introduce adhesive vinyl. Now, adhesive vinyl is usually sold in 12 by 12 sheets for crafters. Okay, that is because most cutting machines can accommodate 12 inches wide. Now, you can also buy it by the roll, but as a beginner, I think sheets are easier until you start cutting in larger projects or cutting in bulk. Okay, now the 12 by sheets work really great because they fit right on your cutting mat, and for most projects, this is going to be a good size for you. In most machines, you can use a mat for everything that you cut, but luckily with the Silhouette, you can also cut vinyl without using a cutting mat. Now, we're not going to go too much into that today, but just kind of file that away for future reference. Now, there are different types. What I'm going to show you is a pattern adhesive vinyl, a specialty adhesive vinyl, this one in particular is a chrome vinyl, and a solid adhesive vinyl, okay? Now, it's not that one type is better than the other, but cost-wise, the basic adhesive vinyl is going to be your way to go. When you're first starting out with vinyl, you're just going to want to get a solid color adhesive vinyl. Now, when it's time to look for a vendor, there are a lot of vendors online that sell vinyl. The piece of advice that I give you is to go online and read the reviews. I usually steer away from vinyl that can be found in local craft stores. And the most popular brand that you're going to find for just an overall general vinyl will be Oracle 651. Now, Oracle is the brand. 651 is a designation. So let's address that real quick. 651 is a permanent adhesive vinyl. It is just a general, this is what you need for cup decals, car decals, you want to make a sign. It's just a general purpose vinyl. Now, what you don't want to do is put 651 on delicate surfaces like the interior walls, because 651 can be damaging to both the paint and the drywall. So let's talk about the other designation that is most common, 631. 631 is a temporary adhesive vinyl. It works really well if you are making stencils, or again, like I just said, if you are putting them on the interior wall. And make sure you do some research about that. I don't want to steer you in the wrong direction. But from what I hear, you are safe for around 2 years. It's not that you can't take the vinyl back off, but the adhesive on the back is going to release easier and cause less damage to your wall. Okay, now let's talk about specialty. Most of your specialty adhesive vinyl is going to be glitter, holographic, transparent or translucent, and then of course pattern. Now, most of those are only available in a permanent adhesive, which for most of what you need, that's going to be just fine. Okay, there's also a few things that you can look into if you want to add a little extra oomph to your project. You can get printable or jet, which is going to be able to use in your inkjet printer, and you can also get glitter over laminate. Now, what that means is that you can layer it over your vinyl before you cut, or technically after you cut. All right, but that is going to cover the basics of the adhesive vinyl that is available. Now, when you are loading this in your cutting machine, you are simply going to flatten it out if it comes curved, or if you're cutting it off of a roll, and you will line it up with your cutting machine, and you are going to have your glossy side facing up. Okay, you don't do anything special in your software other than to choose the correct settings. And once you finish your cut, you will weed the excess material off, and you are going to use transfer tape to transfer your design from this backing to your project. Now, talking about backing, adhesive vinyl, at least all the adhesive vinyl I've used, comes on a paper backing, okay? And that's the biggest way that you can tell adhesive vinyl from heat transfer vinyl, which we're going to talk about next. But adhesive vinyl, typically speaking, if it comes with a paper backing, and most of the time it is stamped with your brand, like this one is stamped for Oracle. And what I always suggest is when you are placing orders, on this paper backing is also the perfect place to write maybe the name of the color, or even just a reminder of where you purchased it from, so that you know when you need to replenish your stash, what you're looking for, okay? Now, let's move on to heat transfer vinyl. Heat transfer vinyl is often referred to as HTV. Just like we say, oh hey, let's cut some vinyl, usually that's referring to adhesive vinyl. And we will strictly say, hey, let's cut some HTV, and very rarely do experienced users spell that out. But it's important to learn that type of acronym so that you know what everybody's talking about, right? So of course you can get solid, all right? You can also get glitter. There are also other types such as holographic, there is flocked, there are thicker materials such as brick, or metallics, or I mean the list just kind of goes on. And of course there are patterns, okay? Now, cutting heat transfer vinyl is a little bit different, because when you go to cut heat transfer vinyl, you have a glossy side and you have a, I won't call it matte, but maybe a not as glossy side, right? And you want to lay this glossy side against your matte. Now, the reason that is because this glossy side is a built-in carrier sheet, okay? So you will not cut through the backing of this. You will simply cut through and weed your design into the back of the HTV, okay? What that also means is that in your software, you need to mirror your design. You can also use the word flip, mirror, whatever works for you, but you want your design to be the reverse of what you're wanting to cut. Okay, with that said, the same thing will happen. It will cut the reverse into your material, and once you weed it, you will then flip it over, carry your side up to apply to your garment. Now, of course, heat transfer material has to have heat, and the heat settings are going to be based on your manufacturer. Now, as far as brand goes, I feel that if you stick with one of the major four, at least when you're starting out, there have been some new brands that have come up lately that are good, but as long as you stick with Stahl's, Caesar, Shimika, or Specialty Materials. Those are the four that have at least been around the longest as far as I know, and I have personally used all four of them and gotten really good results. Now, after you look up the brand that you want to use, a lot of them will have websites, or the place you buy it from will have an area designated to your cut settings. Well, we'll say recommended cut settings, and also your heat press settings. And that's what you're going to want to refer to. Now, you obviously cannot write, maybe you could with a Sharpie, but you can't really write on heat transfer vinyl, because if you write on the back, you are writing on the actual HTV, and then your glossy side, most of the time a pen is not going to work. But what you can do is you can actually apply labels to the glossy side only. You do not want to apply labels to your matte side, because that is your HTV. Try not to forget that. But the glossy side, you can actually apply labels to. And again, you can identify the brand, you can identify the color, and even maybe where you bought it from, okay? Now, with that being said, you'll notice that is the biggest difference. If I were to pick this up and say, is this heat transfer vinyl or is this adhesive vinyl? Well, I know it's heat transfer vinyl. Typically speaking, most heat transfer vinyl do not come on a paper backing, okay? So if it's got a glossy side and no paper backing, this is heat transfer vinyl. Now, all of those rules are going to apply even to glitter, even to holographic. The only thing that's going to change, again, is your heat settings for what you press it on. And then also what may change is whether it's a hot or a cold peel. And that'll make a difference, because a hot peel can be peeled immediately after pressing, and a cold peel, you have to wait until it is cool to the touch. So a lot of times, usually how it works for me is I will press a type of HTV, I'll go to peel it up, and my HTV does not adhere to my garment. So I'll give it a quick repress, wait for it to cool, and then I can peel off my carrier sheet. Okay, now we do have videos on using heat transfer vinyl and adhesive vinyl, so I will link those for you below. But before we get too far into it, there is also pattern heat transfer vinyl. Now, all the rules that I just told you, throw those out the window. For your pattern adhesive vinyl, you are going to cut pattern side up, and it has a backing, but it's not really a paper backing. It is kind of a glossy feeling backing. So it can be very confusing for beginners starting out because you will cut and weed and transfer almost exactly the same as you're going to with adhesive vinyl. The only thing that's going to change for this is number one, it's heat applied. It is still heat transfer vinyl. And number two, you need a special patterns mask. Okay, you cannot use regular transfer tape for your pattern HTV. Now, most places that you buy pattern HTV, it will say in the description whether the patterns mask is included or not. So just make sure that you look for that, because if it's not included, then you will want to find and purchase the mask from the vendor that you're getting the pattern HTV from. In a pinch, if you have saved any carrier sheets from prior cut jobs on HTV, if you save a few of those can help you in a pinch, but it's not an ideal situation. Okay, now let's talk about one more type of vinyl, and it's actually, it's, in my opinion, it's not really a vinyl, but a lot of people will call it marine vinyl, but this is actually leatherette. Okay, now leatherette is meant for almost like fabric type applications. You can cut hair bows, you can make earrings, you can do all types of projects with these. Keychains, they're used also in sewing and embroidery, but most of your cutting machines are able to cut through it as well. I won't go too far into it, but I just want to let you know, if you hear anybody talk about marine vinyl, not marine grade adhesive vinyl, okay? I know it gets kind of tricky, but that's why we're going over it now. But a lot of people will call this marine vinyl or like an upholstery vinyl. There is also leatherette vinyl like this that you can buy in your local craft stores. But those are not really intended to cut with your machine. And the only reason I bring that up is because if you're looking for leatherette to be able to cut with your machine, then you want to buy from a place that can give you cut settings and show you how to cut it. Okay, so those are the basics of vinyl, and hopefully I did not overwhelm you. I tried to keep it short and to the point. So we have adhesive vinyl, Oracle 651, Oracle 631, patterns. All right, some really good information about those. Heat transfer vinyl, aka HTV, and then the marine grade vinyl, right? And you know, as long as you can keep those three straight or apply the labels like we talked about. There's also a lot of really great vinyl storage ideas that you can research. One in particular I know of is to find vinyl record storage boxes and sleeves, and that will store your patterns and your heat transfer vinyl really well. So you know, you just kind of got to get out there and do that research. But as far as vinyl goes, we got you covered. If you have any questions or you know, just want to say hi, you can leave that down in the comments below. I always love to hear from you guys. And of course, make sure you subscribe to the channel because we always have a lot of great projects and tutorials for you. So thanks again for watching, and we will see you next time.